When I was growing up, I feel like the more a restaurant is in magazines, the better they have to be. Why would people talk about this restaurant if it wasn't good? The more that I became in the industry, it's like, that's not the case at all. The general public always assumes credibility and media exposure go hand in hand, where in reality, they don't. Because the way that the media works is they're in the business of attention. But the one thing that I've come to realize that it doesn't equate the same. The general public should know that also. And the only form of credibility is word of mouth. That is it. Hey guys, welcome back to the AOC podcast. So this is our third episode. If I'm being completely frank, which is something that I've always told you guys that I would be, we have filmed 3 episodes so far, and we haven't released a single one. This is it's just the name of the game of making content like this. Anyways, so normally I think by the third episode I would have expected to have some relay about how it's going, what we were talking about. But since the first episode hasn't even been released, and I just want to talk about that briefly as well. It's been extremely liberating filming this. I cannot put into words, first of all, how much work it takes, to organize everyone, to organize an already packed schedule for myself, and but most importantly, to see how eager people are to come on the podcast. As someone who is, running a few businesses, I know how busy we all can get, especially as a chef. It eats our time, and there's no shortcut for it. When you're doing a new dish, when you're doing a recipe, when you're brainstorming, when you're being creative, like, it just takes time, and there you can delegate and you could do whatever you want, but unless you are completely not involved in the creative process or the day-to-day running of a restaurant or whatever, there is just you have to do it yourself. So for other chefs who I've approached, so far everyone has said yes, and a lot of them have been really excited to come on. Like I've always said, I wanted this to be a platform for other chefs to come in and openly discuss things that they have, concerns that they have about, issues that they are worried about, or just have a frank, open discussions about anything. And look, we I know that we haven't started, but we're gonna get in touch with everything. The star, the list, sustainability, credibility, PR, marketing. Well, I personally feel like people don't want to talk about, and that's why chefs don't put themselves out there. And it also goes against their personality. Like, very few chefs are like me, extroverted, really in your face kind of thing. I guess I'm really comfortable in my own skin, and I know that I'm lucky that I'm this way. I didn't I wasn't, I mean, that's not technically true. I was quite a I thought I was quite a shy teenager, but then they'll say, no, there's no fucking way that you were. Yeah, so that's why I think having a moderator who is also a chef, it eases them a bit. Like, that's something I definitely noticed with Garima. Like, I feel like the first bit of the podcast, even though she's always been really authentic from the get go. By the way, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I really enjoyed that. We had to cut some things out because just not enough time to fit it all in. But just sitting, I'm definitely gonna invite her back in the future. Maybe next year, maybe, I don't know, whenever it is. And there was so much left on the table that I wanted to ask her, but obviously, I just can't go around asking people for half the day to tell me their life story. People really, really want this. And I feel like a lot of chefs have so much to talk about. Or, maybe for them it's almost a healing process. Like, they want to say how they feel about certain things, but don't really have an area, an expressive area to do it. They can't tell their partners about it because maybe their partners are not from the industry. They can't complain to their business partners or owners about it because they don't understand. And then to complain it out in the internet without any sort of like support, it's a scary place to do it. So this podcast is why I created this, for that, that pocket of, like, no judgment. It's just an area to let them come and get things off their chest. So I won't go into details about who I've had planned on for the next coming, but like I've always said, it'll start off as chefs, but I definitely do think that I do want to branch out with things that are touching F&B, because I do think that there's a lot. It's really interconnected, and F&B is a huge industry. It's huge. It's absolutely massive. Massive. And for me personally, it's going to be a massive learning curve. I will get so much value just being the host, being lucky enough to be able to be in a position to be the host. And I'm so fucking excited. It's the third EP in. I haven't released a single one. I've spent a considerable amount of time and money to get this far, and I'm so excited to see where this goes. And I know that a lot of people, when this goes out, will be like, "Why are you not getting sponsorship?" This, like, look, maybe I will get sponsorship in the future. I definitely don't think I can afford to do this forever. And the thing is, I want to like invite international guests. I want to grow this. I want to have, But the thing is, in terms of like and I have turned down few sponsors already. The reason being is I want it to be a creative space. I don't want the sponsorship to interfere with anything that we're doing here. At the end of the day, it is literally an open platform for all F&B people from regional, international, whatever, to come on here, sit with me for an hour and a half, and then I basically will talk to them about the life experiences, everything, and also from the people coming on. I will challenge them. I will ask uncomfortable questions that probably never been asked before, and I'm okay with doing that. And I want people to be aware because when I started talking about it, I had a lot of people wanting to come on, and the reasoning for coming on is like they want to promote their restaurant, which is absolutely fine. I have no issues with that, but that's not why we're doing this. This is not a restaurant promotion program. People are not going to log into YouTube or Spotify or whatever this is going to be distributed, if any, because we haven't distributed it yet. I want them to. It's an hour of their time, an hour of 20 minutes of your time. So if you're driving, if you're going to the gym, you're running on a treadmill, whatever, this would be great for that. But at the end of the day, I want it to be as raw, authentic, and as always, unscripted as possible. So let's talk about the last one. So the first time I had Green on, first time I had a guest on, really grateful, really, really grateful. And the thing is, I've known her since she first opened Ga, and her mentality and her shift was really inspiring. And even though we touched it on briefly, it was something that I wanted to get in further. Like her evolution of food, of like no following her own palate, is something that I really, really admire. And to be honest, after that podcast with her, I have changed the direction that we're doing for the next menu at Mia. It's just like, at Mia, we're a modern European restaurant, but the way that we season things is very, very Asian. And just from that conversation, just that type of like that thing, I was like, why don't I just cook something that I want to eat myself? I know that is what we do, but I feel like the main courses that we have is quite generic. When I say generic, I mean like it's still delicious, it's comforting, but it's not really something that you will remember in a year's time. And I'm okay with saying that. What we kind of focus on is execution. Like, even though we serve a chicken breast for our main course, I feel like the chicken breast that we do, it maximizes the points of that chicken as much as possible. So yes, could you have better chicken breast? Yeah, you could. You could increase the product range or whatever. But for that chicken, for how many ever points it has, we at Mia have done what we can to minimize the point scoring system that I've talked about in the first podcast, right? But in terms of like creativeness and challenge, we don't really challenge our customers. And it was very interesting to hear Garima say that she does, and she does it on purpose. And there's a super fine line with that, super fine line, and to have the balls to do that to your customers is very brave. Obviously, there is no right or wrong when it comes to creating dishes and creating a style of restaurant that you want to have. It's completely personal preference. It's completely up to you. But the thing that you have to, well, the thing that I've always observed is, you have very different restaurants and very different chefs, and they have very different reasonings for doing what they're doing. And some extremely challenges the diners, to chase the creative, like, I've never had this before. This is amazing. The thing that's been unique about this, and this, I honestly almost like want to meet a scientist and do a graph, because I feel like you should be able to read the data. I feel like even for me, because the thing is, I noticed in my own palate. When I first started off cooking, and I had no idea about food, right? No idea about food, no idea about whatever it was. Giving me the simplest thing, like a spaghetti carbonara, but done properly. So I switched from spaghetti cream to an actual real carbonara. I was like, wow, this is amazing. And for me, the feeling of having something new, even though it was comforting for other people, was exhilarating. And I feel that way about foreigners coming to Thailand and eating Thai food for the first time. For us, Thais, because we're so used to it, we don't have the same feeling or the same, like, that's new. I've never had that before. And it's amazing. As foreigners do. You have someone from whichever country who's never been here before, they've never had a tom yum in their life. And then they try it for the first time. I said, holy shit. Or you have people who've had tom yum and then they try something more local, like tom kha min. Tom kha min is my all-time favorite fucking Thai soup, hands down. From the south, Dek Nakhon Si Thammarat, and from a Muslim family, tom kha min is by far, for me, in my opinion, the most superior Thai soup. To putting it up there, that's it. No competition. Personal preference, of course. And this is where I really, really want to touch base with, like, because the thing is, when I speak out loud, and probably I need a moderator to keep me in track because I really get sidetracked. See an established restaurant, and sometimes you go there, right? And you yourself, you get so challenged. You're just like, what the fuck did I just eat? And then even me and Michelle, we're sitting next by side, and then she might fucking hate one dish, and I might fucking love it. And then the next course, she will fucking love that dish, and I will be like, what the fuck did I just put in my mouth? And that for me, it's so like it shouldn't be a shield of mediocrity. There is no right or wrong, and it's always gray. It's not black and white. Obviously, it shouldn't be a shield of mediocrity. A chef should never use the shield of, yeah, but it's personal preference, as like, you executing something badly, or an ingredient being handled poorly, or basically just overcomplicating a dish for the sake of overcomplicating a dish because you have insecurities of your cooking style or whatever it is. And the worst for me that I hate the most is cultural. The cultural defense card that a lot of chefs use, and I have used myself in the past. Oh, but this is how it's done in my hometown. It's a very dangerous slope because although flavor may be subjective and personal, in my opinion, in fine dining, and as a chef, as someone who takes the profession seriously, although I've never had any professional training in terms of like didn't go to culinary school, there's a very fine line that you have to understand, that you have to be self-critical enough to be honest with yourself and be like, yeah, we could do it better. And that, I feel like having a scientist, having someone with, I would love to see the science behind the psychological works of how people grade food. For example, if I took someone who was only entering the world of cooking and I took them to somewhere like it's an edgy place. It's definitely not fish and chips. For example, like I took my younger sister, Celine. I'm throwing her under the bus here. But I'm not doing that because of her or anything. But if I took someone who doesn't really appreciate it like to that level yet, and it's not to say that their palate is wrong or bad. It's just like they don't have enough experience to appreciate the new things in a way that other people would do. And it's always been such a topic for me that's so fascinating. And I really feel like if you could draw a graph, and maybe one already exists, I don't know, by scientists, psychologists, and they do studies on what people think is good and bad. When I was younger, I always thought that good food was universal. Like you had to be dumb to say that it's not good. I mean, you do have very rare restaurants and establishments that become like to the point where everyone says it's good. For me, that restaurant in Thailand is Sorn. I have not met a single person who has gone to Sorn and was like, yeah, that was okay. No one, fucking no one, no one. Yes, everyone always says it's a bit too spicy, and obviously, I'm saying this as Sorn is my favorite restaurant in the whole wide world. Probably, definitely is my favorite restaurant in the whole wide world. I'm a big FC. I'm from Nakhon Si Thammarat, so Chef Ice. It's southern food that really resonates with me and my nostalgia, and obviously, that's more of an emotional attachment to that. But if I take the emotional attachment out and obviously deduct point with the nostalgia that it gives, and I just look at it from a chef's point of view, and I look at it from a like layered complexity, Chef Ice and his team, Chef Yard has been able to do something that I thought was impossible, which is basically refine the complexity of Thai flavors while still keeping the soul of Thai flavors. Because they go against each other. They really, really do. They really, really do. They go against each other. It's opposites. The reason Thai food is so fucking good and so fucking delicious, and a lot of other Asian, it's the complexity, like the curry, the complexities in Thai curries, the seasonings, the fats, the types of fat that you do, the different types of acids that you have to season it with. Tamarind gives a tartaric acid reaction differently to lime, which is obviously citric acid, and then you have other fruits that has ascorbic acid. So, and the way that ingredients react with heat over time. Also, when you drop that time, when does humidity go in? When does liquid go in? They have been able to select and pull out things that refine things, but at the same time, keep it very fresh, vibrant, and the seasoning is always on point. And for me, Thai food that's what's the hardest about it is the seasoning. Anyway, I literally could do a whole episode talking about Son, but digressing here, going back, right? So for me, it would be very interesting to draw a graph, even write a book, and maybe I'll write a book about it one day. Well, why do because it's something that's always fascinated with me. Because like when you have these accolades and stuff, you automatically give it credibility and PR. The whole thing about marketing is a different, topic entirely. Because do not I want people to understand this very clearly, and something I didn't understand until I went into the industry. Like when you're outside of it, like when I was growing up, I feel like the more a restaurant is in magazines, the better they have to be. Why would people talk about this restaurant if it wasn't good? And then the more that I grow up and the more that I became in the industry, it's like that's not the case at all. Exposure does not equate to credibility at all. It almost doesn't even go hand in hand because like it's two different industries that are almost they work together but they're not serving each other. One doesn't help the other. And it's obviously I'm gonna get so much shit. I'll probably get canceled on the internet for saying this, but and this is absolutely no aim at anything, no aim at the media at all, no aim at the industry that we work in at all. I'm only being a conversation starter and an observer, as you will, and my opinion on it, and mine alone. That's it. It's not even Mia's opinion, it's my personal opinion on the fact. What I find super interesting is that the general public always assume credibility and media exposure go hand in hand, where in reality they don't. And probably the more media exposure you have, the more that you will get customer satisfaction. And the interesting thing is, and the thing that I found is, you can almost, because the way that the media works is they're in the business of attention. That's how media works. Media, PR, it is the business of attention. It's not the business of the general Joe going online, booking a restaurant, and then having a great meal and their time. And when you dissect it and you make it black and white, it's basically an investment of their pleasure time. Like they're spending this much money to go to your restaurant for 2.5 hours, 3 hours, or whatever, and they want to be served a certain standard of whatever it is. And then this is obviously it's not as simple as that, and it's very digressed. And like you can have different views on all these things. But the one thing that I've come to realize that it doesn't equate the same. And the general public should know that also. What I do say, and the only form of credibility is word of mouth. That is it. One day, maybe with the help of AI, maybe with the help of graphing what people measure things with. Honestly, I feel like a mix of AI, mix of Google review, which I know that a lot of chefs hate, but personally, I use it. I use it when I go to a new country and I have a restaurant that I like, fine dining or not fine dining. I use Google review. I really do. I feel like it's one of the few ones that are. And the problem with Google review is that I feel like they're very negative on fine dining establishments. Because I've said, like, I'm going back to the early one, generic people who don't really, and I'm not saying that generic people don't know anything about food. That's not the case. Generic people do not have the same appreciation for a deeper thing. Exactly what Garima was talking about. The chase, the new thing, the They just want to be given what they're used to, what they're familiar with. And that for them is how they measure good things. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's why I think our measuring metric system for what a good restaurant should be and is, and a successful restaurant should be and is, there isn't really one kind of like institution that caters to everything. And this is where Michelin comes in, because they're independent. Because you can't host Michelin. You don't know when they come. You don't know when they show up. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here talking them up, because obviously no guide is perfect. No list is perfect. No, it cannot be. But I'm just merely observing what I think could be very, very interesting. And obviously, being a chef, being a business owner, this may be career suicide. I don't fucking know. But at the end of the day, it's so interesting to see. And for me as an observer, who first and foremost, I'm really speaking as a fan. Like if I've never been to Korea, if I went to Korea, and it's good that we talked about this country because my next topic is involving this. If I went to Korea and I went into the city. Obviously, I want to try a few fine dining places. I want to try a few casuals. What do I use? What do I use? And the thing is, I know because people come to Thailand a lot. So people, when they come to Thailand, they always message me like, do you have any recommendations? I've even made like a template of like recommendations that I have that I just give out. I even can't keep up with what changes and what not. So this is where, who knows? I might invite a journalist one day to come here and talk about it, because I really feel like the association with the more well-known a restaurant is and the credibility that they give, I feel like it doesn't align at all. And it's the good or the bad of the business, it. And the problem is, I feel like it's, if there is more separation with how we judge restaurants and stuff, it serves the clients, which is the customer, better. And that's all I care about. Because I feel like these credibility institutions, whatever they are, what they do is they basically, the whole purpose of it is to give the customers options and choice. The most important thing is to give them an informed option and choice. And I don't think there'll ever be one that's perfect. But I definitely do think that once you start informing and people understand that Just because a certain place or thing is everywhere, it doesn't mean what you think it means. And the issue with that is, obviously, when people understand the game, it's easier to manipulate. That's just the truth. I know that some chefs feel really uncomfortable about this topic. I'm not. And this is why this whole podcast is for this. And I don't judge the chefs for playing the game at all. Or even not even the chefs, not even their it's not even their choice, normally the owners of the restaurant. And because like they have to play the game. Because what happens is that it's a direct correlation of increasing business. It's marketing. That's what it is. It's it puts bums on seats. There is no love lost in business. If you have to do what you have to do to survive, especially in the fine dining. And I'm talking generic here, and I'm not talking about any particular thing. I'm just talking like really generic restaurants. You could have a corporate restaurant that just throws money at being exposed. They put billboards up. They have commercials at the airport. You know what I mean? Like they're everywhere, and you see it so often. You're like, I have to go there someday. Like when I first moved here, one of the restaurants that was always on my Facebook feed was Cocotte. And I just arrived. It was like 2006. I had just arrived, but Cocotte was everywhere. Everywhere. And yeah, and the feeling of like, because it was so everywhere, I had to give it a try. But if you remove the credibility side, but it has nothing to do with how a restaurant operates at all. I mean, I'm sure customers know that already, and I'm sure a lot of business owners know that too. But it would be so interesting to be able to create something that is it. Basically, you separate the clientels. What do they want? What kind of food? What are they looking for in a night out? Are they on a honeymoon and they want that that kind of like that chase of something new they've never had before? Or do they want something quite safe? They're taking their parents out. Their parents don't really like fine dining. They want something a bit more safe. And then, how do you judge them all on the same level, but actually judge them all on the same level? And how do you be bipartial about it? That's the thing. All media companies cannot be bipartial because they need to pay the bills. They have shit to worry about themselves. Journalists have shit to worry about themselves. Do you know what I mean? And everything has to run. Things have to operate. Money talks, sponsorships. Like it's just how it works. It's just how the world works. So yeah, I mean, I know I'm definitely gonna get a lot of shit for talking about this, but I think it has to be said. I genuinely do, and it's not from like a place of like I want to a bad talk. It's not. I think honestly the way that I feel about lists, awards, stars, whatever, everything is beneficial. I don't think there is one single media institution out there that is an award list or whatever you want to call it that is not beneficial for the industry. More exposure is better exposure. That's how I see it. Absolutely, 100%. It's beneficial, but I do think that the attachment that chefs give to these type of things can be detrimental to their health. First and foremost, people worry about it so much, where they should be spending the same amount of energy and time focusing on the substance, the day to day. Secondly, people can never underestimate that there is absolutely no love lost in business. People just are doing what they're trying to do to survive. Everyone has their own shit to worry about, and there should be less judgment from all parties involved. The industry would be in a much better place, I feel, in a happier place, in a more fulfilled place, in a place of better understanding with each other, and of just being like, thirdly, honesty. Just be open about it. There's all the secret I feel that the industry has. We already know it. It's like there's no need to like, just chill. It's not the end of the world. It's okay. So that's how I feel in this whole topic. And it's a topic that's been in my heart for a long time. And, and obviously not a place of malice at all. It's, people are entitled, absolutely entitled to do what they need to do to survive. I totally understand. And thrive, not just survive and thrive. And this is the beauty of a free market. People are absolutely allowed to do whatever they want to do. Look, I have some very some close chef friends who they go up to me and they go, oh yeah, we don't really do any marketing, but we're not that type of restaurant. And I look at them and I go, why? Why are you so attached to be like, you want to be so artistic, you want to be so naive that you think that the world, as noisy as it is, you don't want to help yourself get yourself to where you deserve to be because of like an ego thing that you don't want to do marketing? Why? Do it. It's okay. If you don't want to do it because you don't believe in it, that's fine too. But then don't complain about the effects of marketing that you don't get when you don't do it. It doesn't work that way. So, yeah. fucking hell, I'm gonna get so much shit for this episode of podcast. I didn't think it was gonna be EP3. I actually wrote my mobile something else completely. But yeah, so but the interesting is I feel like the and this may be bad, but if you can filter the customer, and not in terms of like experience, but in terms of like what they want, the a judging system, whichever format or whatever style it would be so helpful. And if you remove, honestly, if you just remove the hosting part or be transparent about the hosting part, it can really, really create a judging system that is more beneficial for the average Joe. Like for me, honestly, the two things that I look for when I go to a new city, hands down, first and foremost, is the Michelin app. I feel like Michelin, with the app that they've done, holy shit, has been a life game changer. Before you had to buy the book, and it's every year. Even I lived in London. I only bought like a few books. And before they digitized everything, it was really hard to keep up with who had a star, who didn't. And not only that, Michelin's like, it's before they had the big gourmets and stuff. Like back when I first started out, it was quite it was like too prestigious for you, and it wasn't based overseas that often. But now with the app, with the star rating, with the other ratings that they have, and how beneficial the app is. I don't know who's operating their back of house, but it's fast, it's up to date, ish, and it's viable. And the second one is Google reviews. I genuinely know that fucking chefs hate it, but I use it. I really do. I genuinely use it. Yeah, those are the two. Those are the two that and yeah, look, I know that Google reviews are easy. It's also manipulatable. For me, I don't really use 50 best or the world's best that much because I feel like there's I don't know. I've been to a few and have been left disappointed in the past. So I don't really follow that, and I know that a lot of like industry people don't really follow that either, and that's fine, But it's still like if I went to a new city that I've never known, and look, 50 Best did a lot of great things for exposure. It really, really did brought fast track the industry. This is why I always say, like, again, not a place of malice, but there's everything adds value to the industry. But I just feel like the transparency side would be beneficial. Honestly, if you had a judging system that had a bit of everything, you could cherry pick about what works, what doesn't work, and obviously, I know that at the end of the day, it's money is the bottom line, of it all. To when you see these government contracts, sponsoring something like Michelin to a country, it's a fair bit of money, but also it costs a lot. Like just for them, for example, because they can standardize it, right? You have to host a gala, you have to pay for the inspections to go out and eat, however many. I mean, speaking to previous inspectors, sometimes it's 3 meals a day, and they have to write about it, and then you got to pay for the travel expenses, and then you got to think of how many restaurants that is, accumulate that into a business model that is profitable, sustainable, as well as doing everything else, staying relevant. It's fucking expensive. So yeah, and but a cool one would be like a democratized AI powered filtration system that takes into the account about what the customers are looking for, and then maybe you have it's obviously not black and white, and it's multi-dimensional, multi-layered, but it would be super interesting to see in the future if that does exist. I think what La List is doing is quite interesting. I'm not, I don't really know them, and I don't really use it, but each year I feel like the list that they put out is really intriguing. And yeah, and for me, like if you had something that was like openly funded, like people pay a membership to be I don't know I don't know how you would finance it, but it was like openly funded, and then the owners of the organization are actually the customers who use the thing to help them navigate through new cities and stuff, and it would solve a lot of issues. And then, because like I feel like being bipartial as a journalist is almost impossible. You're paid to do a job. You have to do a job. A journalist comes to see your restaurant. Like they have to, like, this is the biggest difference between London and, for example, Southeast Asia. Like journalists in London, when I was working there, they write out, or they write or they don't write about your restaurant. It's up to them. It's up to their discretion, because they come, they pay, they pay. That's right, they pay, and then they fucking leave. They don't let you know in advance. They just show up most times right after you're open. They don't give two fucks that you've just opened, and they're very, very, very honest about what they experience. They can be completely bipartial. Like they absolutely have no interest to make friends with the chefs, to keep the business owners happy, because they pay for it themselves. And I know that they can afford to do that. And that is where the credibility and exposure kind of like aligns. Obviously, you have every single newspaper outlet in London talking about your restaurant, saying great things. even though it's completely credited from the writer themselves, who has experience, who has real knowledge of food, it builds. The reputation builds, of course. So in terms of like the new wave of restaurant exposure attached to how they used to be, because before, of course, like 30, 40 years ago, to have your restaurant in like the New York Times or whatever, or whichever old school media print, because their main business was something else. It wasn't just focused on F&B. It was a huge deal, and it was a direct correlation to credibility and putting bums on seats. That's how it worked. But where the media has morphed into something else, it morphed to like a business of attention. It has completely changed the way that credibility and exposure, they no longer align. They no longer go hand in hand. And with how things are these days, because it's just a lot more expensive. There's a lot of new restaurants. You cannot expect a newspaper or a media outlet to like finance their own judging. It's just financially impossible. And that, talking about that, it's okay. It's okay to say that. When you obviously invite people in, you're not going to do it for free. You expect something in return. And you obviously can't expect to invite journalists. They come in, they give you an honest feedback, they write about it, and then you get upset about what they write about. It just doesn't work. Who does that serve? No one. So you end up having exposure with no credibility. You end up having, I feel like no one wins. You just have, and the thing is, it dilutes all the content out there with everything else. And worst of all, it makes customers, the average Joe like myself or whatever, not trust anything. That's the worst of it all. And I feel like we're going down that path. I feel like each year, the general public believes these types of like, I don't know how you categorize them, credibility markers less and less. And it's not just one, it's like all of them. The credibility that the credibility markers give themselves, they score less and less. And it's a super interesting multiple dimensional fact that I have always felt really strongly passionate about. Again, I don't know how many times I have to say this. Not a place of malice. As an observer, as a fan, as a general public who eats out, and as someone who would love to see someone create and also someone study the science behind decision makings, behind why do different people with different walks of experience of life, and how do you mark that, how do you measure that, so everyone is benefits from it. The chefs benefits from it because they don't feel like they're getting robbed of someone that don't know anything about the food, which I understand. If I cook for my mom the most complex menu I've ever done that I think is amazing, she'll fucking hate it. And then also from a chef's side, like, they have to understand that the restaurant has to serve a purpose. Like when Gareem was talking about adding value, you have to add value to your customers' time. It's what they're paying for. And at Mia, we add value of time and entertainment. We make the shit that you don't want to do at home without having to, like, we don't chase the at Mia. We give a very generic, like, standardized, and we add touches of hidden complexity. But it's so hidden that you don't really notice it. So it's not jarring. This is because you just want to be approachable to all people. So there's no right and wrong. And then you have some which is even more than us, like like classical institutions where they just serve what they've been serving for forever. So yeah, for me, it's always been super interesting. I really, really didn't mean this topic to go into that, but I'm sure, guys, if you see this in the comment, message it, like, tell me what you guys think. I'm opening a can of worms here that I really, really probably will get canceled for, but it's okay. I knew this before making this podcast that this would come to that. Like I've said again, I just find it so interesting to, and look, I would love to interview a journalist. I would love to, maybe a former academy chair, or anyone. Like, it's, for me, it's super interesting because, like, I feel like how reviews used to work is they were basically a service of deterioration for really, really bad run restaurants. Ages ago. You rarely have those nowadays. You still have some, but you rarely have those nowadays. People are more equipped to open a good, successful restaurant nowadays. And also from a person eating out, like, everyone has a different palate. How do you cater that? And everyone's chasing different things. You could have a group of 6 people, and 3 of them just want to be left alone. They want to take fucking pictures. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. And they just want to eat steak and fries. And the other 3, they're like, oh, this restaurant only serves steaks and fries. Well, so where do you draw the line with credibility markers? How can you really tell if one restaurant is better than another? And I'm sure that, and the thing is, there has to be separation. You cannot have a judging criteria system where everyone's the same, everyone's a winner. It's like having a competition and there's no 1, 2, and 3. Everyone just gets a medal for participating. It doesn't serve a purpose. You need to have a separation. You have to have the different criterias, but it shouldn't be as black and white that it is now. And also from a financing point of view, yeah, that's the only, I feel like, the only biggest. If you imagine you gave all the journalists in the world or whatever, it's like they are the ones deciding what to write up, but you don't dictate what they write up about. They write, it's like the freelance. So Eddie's a dear friend, and Eddie, Eddie, I don't think he would ever call himself a fruit critic or whatever, but he has a free platform that it's called Stranger in Bangkok, and he writes what he likes. I think that has a nice ring to it, and it's refreshing. And even though it's a tiny blogger thing that he has, that he writes what he likes, and he really separates, the and I always trust that whatever Eddie writes about is genuinely, it has to be, it's a pretty solid choice. And so yeah, if there was one that was keeping up to the dates, independently financed from the open public, that could be a very, very cool and interesting. I don't know if I'll ever see that in my lifetime. And then it's powered and programmed by a system that can critique, but has an understanding of filtration. Because a lot of the way that I feel it is, you have some chefs and some restaurateurs and the people who are absolute extreme gourmets. When I say extreme gourmets, I mean like they eat out at top of the list and 2, 3 stars 3 times, 4 times a week, like extreme gourmet. Like there's a 1% of hardcore foodie travelers who support. Honestly, they support the fine dining industry. Without them, it's like the same with the wine collecting wines. Without the 1% who really spend in the industry, it would be a pile of dust. It would not. The fine dining industry would not exist today if it didn't. If those people that could drop, I don't know, $600, $900 on a meal like that 3, 4 times a week, fine dining would not exist. It would not be supported at all. And basically, this I don't know, a guide, a platform, whatever, serves as an informed decision. Like it informs people. Again, word of mouth is still by far the best way and the only way to really, really genuinely get credibility of what you have. Wow, I just wasted a whole EP just talking about this one topic. Anyway, going back about Korea before we get sidetracked. Korea. So I just watched Culinary Wars on Netflix, and I have to lie, I haven't seen The Bear. I feel like those I don't really watch TV shows at all, and the reason being is like I get triggered. So I go home. I've just finished service, and every time I watch anything kitchen related, I fucking get triggered in like, and it's supposed to be like my downtime. So I try to stay away from like cooking shows. I haven't even started watching The Bear because I know that I will not get relaxed watching The Bear. Who knows? I might do, but and everyone's talking about it, and I wanted to like have a week holiday where I just like can just enjoy it and be present. So that's why I've left The Bear alone. I haven't even seen a single episode. But Korean Wars. Wow, that was really, really, really good. I was really, really surprised at how well made it is. And I love that because obviously I was, you may or may not know, I was on a cooking reality TV show myself in Thailand, Top Chef season 2. And I lasted 1 episode. I was the first one out. Oh my god. Yeah. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that, one, I would be on a cooking TV show. Second, be the fucking first contestant out ever. First one. And I it was so funny. And yeah, so the biggest, I mean, I would have to definitely talk about that episode on Top Chef. I'll probably invite my former contestants and we could talk about it on one of the episodes. Anyways, the main difference is, I feel like Culinary Wars, obviously the budget was a huge difference, but they don't create the drama. The drama, if there's enough drama in the kitchen for it to appear naturally, that's one and foremost. Second, the two judges, they fucking know what they're talking about. They really, really know what they're talking about. I'm not taking a shot at any other judges for any other cooking TV shows. It's just that people notice it. Absolutely. When you blindfold them, they're fucking eating the food and they have to like figure out what the fuck they're eating. That's hardcore shit. Like that, and both, and the fact that they have both differing opinions and they have to like argue about that, it's great. And yeah, the ingredients they use, they let them use whatever they want. So basically, the biggest difference I feel like is some of the cooking TV shows, and obviously they have to, right? They have to create drama, otherwise it's just boring. Is that like they give the contestants all the equipment they need. Is like they like make you the best you, and we will just film that and then edit it in a way that is dramatic. But yeah, but I feel like the judging is super objective. You know, the way that they judge, especially the 3-star chef, the aura he has, man, fuck me. It's like it's insane. Like it's really inspiring to watch. And some of the chef contestants, like Triple Star, bro, Triple I fucking want to meet Triple Star one day. The way that he works, the way that he moves, fuck me. Like it's whether he wins or I've only seen like I think the first 6 episodes. But like, you have some real chefs in there. Like some really, really real chefs. And then you have, like the other chefs who are cooking casual food, but like they're really, really passionate about it. When the fucking what is it? Napoleon Mafia made the tiramisu at a fucking convenience store. That's like so entertaining. So I really recommend you guys to watch that. I'm never gonna be one to recommend TV shows. I don't really watch TV at all, actually, at all. I rarely have time for it, and it's not because I'm like better than anyone. Like, it's just I literally I have ADHD and I get bored too easily. So I never nothing really ever encaps me that way, like captures me that way. But Culinary Wars, definitely. I can see why it's so popular, and yeah, everyone's talking about it, and there's a good reason. It's a fantastic show, and general people can enjoy it. And I really feel like a lot of chefs, and this is something that I would never ever hear in a sentence. I feel like it is the first cooking show that I feel like chefs will enjoy. A sentence I thought I would never fucking say ever. And yeah, for the next time when we have more time, I will talk about my my one episode, my 45 minutes Hall of Fame in Top Chef Thailand. Anyway, guys, I think this concludes this one. I really did. I had 3 topics that I wanted to talk about. We didn't get to any of them. We just started talking about media and the way that credibility and exposure aligns with one another. I didn't plan for this. It's just this is why this podcast is really therapeutic for me. And I just come in, I sit in a dark room in Tonglo in the studio, I speak to a camera, unscripted and raw, and I just blab out. And instead of doing this with Michelle, and then she gets bored, and like it's really, really, it's like meditating. It's like a once a week or once every 2 weeks I get to do this, and then I think it's just interesting enough to share. That's it. And again, look, guys, it's not from a place of malice. Like, I'm not taking digs at anyone. Talking about the industry, to my media friends, I still love you. To all the other judging guys and everything, like, I just feel like it's good to talk about. It's good to be honest. It's good to be open and honest, because that's how we get better. That's how, starting conversations. And I want this podcast to be that. It's to start a conversation. And it's okay to disagree. It's okay to not have the same opinion. And these are just my own opinion, and I feel like, and I always speak it from an observant point of view, an experience related point of view, and it's just my truth. And it's just like the experience that I have, and how I see the world. And look, I will definitely be wrong. I'm not sitting here, and like I've said in the first EP, I'm an expert of fucking nothing, okay? I really, really mean that when I say that. I really, really mean that. But I do feel like having some sort of structural, and first of all, understanding how it all works. Understand how things are financed is really, really key. And let's not be naive. Like, we have to talk about that, because at the end of the day, everyone's got bills to pay. That's just a fact. Secondly, what does it serve? Who is it serving? What is the purpose of having any of these accolades related things? I do think that there is a need for it, because it serves for multiple purposes, and how things get criteria, like, and when I said that, if you look at it in terms of like experience, like the most misunderstood restaurants are always the restaurants I feel like that the industry people and the 1% foodies, they all love, but the general public hates. I really feel like if you look at, Mugaritz, I can go on, I don't know anymore on top of my head, but I can go on. I can name restaurants that are super bipolar in terms of like the reaction people get. But when you go to like industry, industry people, when they go there, they say it's one of the best meals they have in their lives. And I feel like it's there's no right or wrong. It's complex and multidimensional. But it would be good. It would be really cool to have a study on why people react to certain types of food, how people perceive certain types of cooking techniques, how people perceive value. What is value for my mom? The more caviar and truffles you add to a dish, the more valuable it is. Not even that, probably because she doesn't even understand the value of caviar and truffle. Like, it's, I don't know, the bigger the plate is, just the more value it has. For my dad, it'd be truffle and caviar. But for me, like, the more caviar, you get to a certain point, but then after that, like, so understanding the different measures of value. I love the word measurement because I think like metric and measurement is key to all of this. How you measure something and when you use the data that you measure will determine everything else that you do. And I feel that that is a key to creating accolade system that benefits the industry first and foremost, that acts as a deter for the disconcerting consumer, the general public, and that is fair and transparent, and most importantly, self-finance. Wouldn't that be the fucking dream? Wouldn't that be amazing? The transparency, self-finance, like that, and like it's a free for all. And yeah, who knows? It'll probably never happen, but wouldn't it be cool one day if it did? Anyway, guys, this is EP3 of Avisha Podcast. I'm obliged to say, please leave a comment. I'm obliged to say, please click like, follow, share.